On October 17th, 2015, an abandoned duffel bag was discovered along a lonely stretch of Highway 12 in rural Greene County. It was a quiet, desolate area, far from prying eyes. An elderly man, out for a stroll, noticed the bag and immediately felt something wasn't right. Suspicious, he decided to call 911. When the officer arrived, they tried to lift the unusually heavy bag, but couldn't manage. Alarmed by its weight, they unzipped it to investigate further, and what they uncovered would haunt them forever. Inside the bag lay a gruesome sight, one that would unravel a tale of tragedy and betrayal. At the heart of this shocking story was the Smith-Jones family, a blended family that, on the surface, seemed like the perfect picture of happiness. But underneath their polished exterior lay secrets waiting to be exposed. John Smith, a successful businessman in his late 40s, was the family's patriarch. Born on November 12, 1982, in Jacksonville, Florida, John grew up in a middle-class household. His parents, high school sweethearts, raised him with strong values, instilling a deep sense of responsibility and ambition. John's early years were marked by quiet determination, a trait that carried him far in life. As John transitioned into adulthood, his natural charisma and leadership skills became undeniable. His sharp mind and drive made him a rising star in the business world. In his late 30s, he married Avery Jones, a radiant and kind-hearted woman in her mid-30s. Their union brought together children from previous marriages, forming what many believed was a tightly knit and loving family. But this wasn't John's first brush with love. 2 decades earlier, in 1990, he had met Natasha Smith, his first wife. Their story began in New York City, a place where dreams were chased and ambitions thrived. John, a budding finance professional, was presenting at a networking event when Natasha, a brilliant marketing executive, caught his eye. She had been captivated by his confidence and poise, and John, in turn, was drawn to her intelligence and charm. Their connection was instant. After the event, they exchanged numbers, and their first date took place at a trendy Manhattan restaurant. They quickly realized how much they had in common, sharing a passion for business, art, and travel. Their relationship blossomed as they supported one another's careers. John's finance company thrived, thanks in part to Natasha's marketing expertise, while her firm flourished under his financial guidance. Together, they built a business empire, becoming the golden couple of New York City. Their peers admired them, and their success seemed boundless. Their marriage, celebrated in an opulent Hampton ceremony, was a spectacle of grandeur. Friends, family, and business associates gathered to witness their union. Shortly after, they welcomed their son, Parker, who became the center of their world. However, over time, the cracks in their perfect life began to show. John's relentless work schedule, with long hours and constant travel, started to strain their marriage. Natasha, feeling increasingly lonely and unappreciated, threw herself into her work to fill the void. Yet the emotional distance between them continued to grow. Their once vibrant relationship began to crumble under the weight of unspoken resentment and unmet expectations. The tension between them became impossible to ignore. Friends and family noticed the change, as arguments between the couple became more frequent. The final blow came one fateful night at a charity gala. In front of colleagues and acquaintances, they had a heated argument that ended with Natasha storming out, leaving John humiliated and alone. The public nature of their fight added fuel to the fire, and their marriage, once envied by all, seemed irreparably broken. What followed was a discovery that shattered John's world. Natasha was having an affair with a younger man, a talented artist she had met at a gallery opening. For John, the revelation was devastating. The betrayal felt like a dagger to the heart, and it became clear that their marriage could not be saved. Their divorce was messy and public, with every detail splashed across tabloids. The custody battle over their son, Parker, became a fierce and bitter struggle. In the end, they agreed to joint custody, but the damage to their family dynamic was irreversible. After the divorce, Natasha's health took a sharp and tragic turn. Unknown to many, she had been battling stage 4 pancreatic cancer. By the time of her diagnosis, the disease had already spread aggressively. Despite her resilience and determination, Natasha's health deteriorated rapidly. In March 2007, just a year after the divorce, she passed away. John was heartbroken. Despite their tumultuous end, he had never stopped caring for her. Her death unearthed a flood of emotions he thought he had long buried. At the funeral, he saw firsthand the impact of her passing on their son, Parker, who was visibly struggling to cope with the loss of his mother. In the wake of Natasha's passing, John tried to rebuild his life. In 2008, he met Avery Jones, a kind and compassionate woman who had also endured her share of heartache. Emily was a widow, having lost her husband in a tragic accident a few years earlier. The two bonded over their shared experiences of loss and found comfort in each other's company. Emily's warmth and understanding were a balm for John's wounded heart, and before long, he realized he was falling deeply in love with her. Despite initial hesitations about remarrying, John decided to take a leap of faith. In 2009, they tied the knot in a simple yet beautiful ceremony surrounded by close friends and family. With this union, their two families blended together. John's son, Parker, and Emily's daughter, Avery, became step-siblings, and to the outside world they appeared to be a picture-perfect family. Parker, now in his early 20s, was a charismatic and outgoing young man. He had always shared a close bond with his father, though the loss of his mother had left an indelible mark on him. Avery, slightly older at 25, was a strikingly beautiful and vivacious young woman. Her radiant personality often made her the center of attention in the family. Despite occasional sibling rivalry, the Smith-Jones household seemed to thrive under John and Emily's nurturing care. But beneath the surface, tension simmered. Parker struggled to fully accept Emily as his stepmother, feeling a deep sense of loyalty to his late mother. Meanwhile, Avery's relationship with Parker was complicated, marked by moments of both closeness and distance. While they tried to maintain the appearance of a happy, cohesive family, cracks in their unity began to form. On October 18, 2015, everything changed. That morning, Avery's lifeless body was discovered, crammed into a large duffel bag and discarded along a remote stretch of Highway 12. The grisly scene shocked the quiet community of Greene County, and the news sent shockwaves through the Smith-Jones family. As investigators combed the scene, the horrific details began to emerge. Avery's body had been severely mutilated, with evidence of a violent struggle. The vibrant young woman, so full of life and promise, had met a terrifying and brutal end. The tragedy left her family reeling with grief and confusion. 2 days earlier, Avery had texted her family, saying she was going to visit her boyfriend, Adrian, and would return the following week. Her disappearance hadn't initially raised alarm, but the discovery of her body shattered any illusions of safety. Detective Matthews, a seasoned investigator, was assigned to the case and began piecing together the events leading up to Avery's death. On October 19th, the Smith-Jones family was interviewed at their home by the police, beginning with Parker. When asked about his relationship with Avery, Parker admitted that they weren't particularly close. He explained that his struggles stemmed from his difficulty accepting his father's remarriage. Feeling loyal to his mother's memory, Parker found it hard to fully embrace the new family dynamic, though he insisted he harbored no ill will toward Avery. Next, the police spoke with John. He described Avery as a private person who rarely confided in anyone, even her mother. However, he contradicted Parker's earlier statement by claiming that Avery and Parker had a sibling-like bond, characterized by mutual care and understanding. This inconsistency immediately raised suspicions among investigators. John provided his alibi for the day Avery left home, stating he had been at work from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., with colleagues who could corroborate his whereabouts. However, he mentioned an unusual detail, that he had come home briefly in the early afternoon to retrieve something he had forgotten. While there, he thought he heard Avery's voice coming from Parker's room. He knocked on the door, but there was no response. Assuming everyone was out, he left without further investigation. The police found this account puzzling, particularly since Parker had claimed he was at a friend's house during the same time frame. Despite these discrepancies, John's alibi was confirmed, leaving Parker's account under greater scrutiny. On October 21st, the forensic team completed an autopsy on Avery's body, revealing chilling details about her death. She had been suffocated before her body was dismembered. The precision of the cuts suggested the use of a large, sharp blade, likely a butcher knife. While these findings provided valuable insights, they brought the investigation no closer to identifying the killer. The case seemed to hit a dead end. The police turned their attention to Avery's text about visiting her boyfriend, Adrian. They tracked him down for questioning on October 22nd. Adrian denied having seen Avery recently, explaining that their relationship had ended 2 months prior. He provided a detailed alibi for the day Avery disappeared, which investigators later confirmed. With Adrian cleared, the police were back to square one. Desperate for leads, detectives reviewed the family's statements again. Parker's insistence that he was at a friend's house didn't hold up under scrutiny. When the police contacted his supposed friends, none could corroborate his story. This discrepancy, coupled with the tension between Parker and Avery, described by the family, placed Parker firmly in the spotlight. On October 23rd, the police obtained CCTV footage from cameras near the Smith-Jones residence. What they uncovered was damning. At around 7 p.m. on October 16th, Parker was seen leaving the property in his father's car, a detail he had failed to mention during his initial interviews. This new evidence directly contradicted his claims of being elsewhere that day, raising serious questions about his involvement. Armed with this new evidence, investigators obtained a warrant to search the Smith-Jones residence on October 24th. Their focus was Parker's room, where they made several alarming discoveries. Among his belongings were multiple duffel bags identical to the one Avery's body was found in. Inside a dresser drawer, they discovered a pair of gloves and a butcher knife. The knife had visible bloodstains, which were later confirmed to match Avery's DNA. The forensic team also identified traces of her DNA on a pillow in Parker's room, suggesting it had been used to suffocate her. Faced with mounting evidence, the police confronted Parker. Initially, he maintained his innocence, insisting he had no involvement in Avery's death. But as investigators laid out the findings, the blood-stained knife, the DNA evidence, and the CCTV footage, Parker's resolve crumbled. He broke down and confessed, revealing a deeply disturbing story that shocked everyone. Parker admitted that he and Avery had developed a secret, intimate relationship. He claimed it started during a vulnerable moment when he comforted her after a heated argument with her boyfriend. Over time, their bond grew stronger, and their relationship crossed boundaries that they both knew were forbidden. Parker insisted their connection was consensual, though he expressed guilt and shame over the nature of their relationship. On the day of Avery's death, she had come to his room, eager to rekindle their affair. However, their interaction took a tragic turn when John unexpectedly came home. Hearing a knock at the door, Parker panicked. Fearing discovery, he placed a pillow over Avery's face to silence her. In his frantic state, he failed to realize the extent of his actions until it was too late. By the time he removed the pillow, Avery was no longer breathing. Overwhelmed by fear and desperation, Parker made a horrifying decision. He retrieved a butcher knife from the kitchen and dismembered Avery's body to fit it into one of his duffel bags. Later that evening, he used his father's car to dispose of the bag along Highway 12, believing the remote location would conceal his crime. Parker's confession sent shockwaves through the family. Emily, who had just returned from her business trip, was inconsolable. Learning that her daughter's life had been taken by her own stepbrother was an unbearable blow. She collapsed upon hearing the full details, requiring medical attention for shock. John, meanwhile, refused to believe his son was capable of such a heinous act. He accused the police of coercing a confession and vowed to fight for Parker's freedom, hiring a team of high-profile lawyers to defend him. The tragic case quickly gained national attention, with media outlets covering every development. Public opinion was sharply divided. Some sympathized with Parker, arguing that the crime stemmed from panic rather than malice. Others demanded harsh punishment, viewing the act as unforgivable regardless of intent. Articles and op-eds debated the complexities of the case, but the overwhelming consensus was one of horror and disbelief. On November 1st, Parker stood trial for his crimes. Despite his defense team's attempts to portray the incident as an accidental death caused by poor judgment, the evidence was overwhelming. The court found Parker guilty of first-degree murder, sentencing him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The verdict sparked an emotional outburst from John, who shouted at the judge and had to be escorted from the courtroom by security. Emily, still grappling with the loss of her daughter, wept uncontrollably as the sentence was read. The trial's conclusion left the Smith-Jones family in ruins, their once idyllic life shattered beyond repair. The tragedy not only claimed Avery's life, but also left behind an enduring legacy of pain, betrayal, and questions that would never fully be answered.